All right. We're going to call the Economic Development Committee meeting to order Tuesday, June 19th. It's approximately 10:01 a.m. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so in attendance you have myself, you have Todd, Ellen, Russ, and Brian. PJ has freshman orientation today. Joanne has a personal issue. Barbara reached out, said she couldn't make the meeting as well. And Marcia may or may not be attending. So we'll start with the acceptance of the minutes for May 15th. I don't know if everyone had a chance to review them. All right, so our alternates, by the way, point of order is our alternates will be acting as full members at this meeting.
Okay.
Any questions in regards to the minutes?
Nope.
I see none. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of May 15th.
I'll second that.
All right, Ellen has made the motion. Todd has seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right. Next on the agenda is the terms of members. I got a little nervous about 6-7 months ago when I saw that we had 4 of our 7 members whose terms were going to technically expire. And so I've reached out to everybody here. So I'm going to start from the reverse up. So Todd, you expressed an interest to be reappointed. I believe the Board of Selectmen took that up last night and reappointed you.
Okay.
So I believe your term is now 3 years.
3 years.
Like 3 year, but we can get confirmation. What you'll have to do on that is go to the town clerk again and get sworn in for your second term. I did reach out to Barbara. For those that don't know Barbara, Barbara was on the board since the kind of inception. Got a lot going on, going to law school. Very, very smart individual, had a lot to offer the board. I've been back and forth with her. What she's going to do is she's going to step down as a full member, and she requested that we appoint her as an alternate member. And then if the schedule changes, you know, because Tuesdays are tough for her and some mornings, so if we can change the schedule, she'll be able to attend these meetings going forward. Mm-hmm. And we can take that up at the next meeting, you know, the change of schedule. So does anybody on the board have an objection with Barbara being an alternate member?
No.
All right. So, and what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to go to the Board of Selectmen and we're going to try to do this in bulk. Now, Marcia has said that it's time for her to move on. Marcia was appointed by the planning board because the planning board has a couple of appointments, and I think, Ellen, you're appointed by the planning board, right? So Marcia's going to step down. She spends 5 months a year now in Florida, so she is not going to ask for reappointment. So that's going to allow a full membership for one of our alternates, as well as the Barbara. So I guess what I would ask our alternate members, Russ and Brian, would you have any concerns about being appointed as full members starting in July to the board? So we'd have one replace Barbara, and then one would replace Marcia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, so we would do that. And then what we'll do is we'll probably have to find another alternate. And I have not heard back from Joanne. I think Joanne, you know, has done so much. Sometimes with her busy schedule and stuff, she thinks about not renewing, and sometimes she does. I think that video idea is a great idea. You know, and I think she'd be great to be the interviewer and all that other stuff. So I'm going to try to see if and Joanne provides, you know, a real-time look at like the real estate market and what's going on in town. So I'm going to try to see if we can get her to stay on. All right. So then. What will probably have to happen is I'll reach out. So since Marcia is the planning board, what I will do is I will, Russ, I'm gonna, because you like planning board issues too, all right? So I'm gonna, reach out to Mark, who's the chairman of the planning board, and see if I can get,
More.
is the term up?
I talked to the guy now, he's the vice chairman.
Oh, they reorganized,
Vice
okay,
chairman is, no, they didn't reorganize yet.
okay,
You have to appoint, with a tie, so we have to appoint somebody,
okay,
go through that process with the selectmen and so forth.
okay.
Okay. Right now, Guy is the vice chairman, so he's
Was Mark's term up? Oh, that's a big loss if he didn't run for reelection. That's a shame.
so you get a hold of Guy.
Okay. All right. All right, so I'll get, you probably won't have to be on there because I think we've already talked to them about one or two of you before. So it'll be just a formality of them appointing you as the full-time planning board member. And then, Brian, I'll present you when I present Barbara as the alternate, to the Board of Selectmen, and then depending on what Joanne does. So I don't think you'll have to attend those meetings, because you've already done that.
PJ's been appointed by the planning board too, you're aware of that, right?
PJ was the planning board?
She was a planning board appointment, right?
Okay. Yeah, her term's up, not up.
Her term's not up yet, but
Yeah, she had like 3 years, I think. And I was interested with you. I was wondering why you only had a 2-year term, because you were
Yeah.
appointed at the same time I was.
Well, yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
I don't understand that either. Maybe, was it, I really forget. I remember just sitting in front of the selectmen and just saying, yeah, that'd be great,
Yeah.
But, I thought that it was just a 2-year term.
It could be.
Or maybe did somebody leave and I was taking over?
Oh, maybe you fulfilled that term
Yeah, I
of
think that's
somebody.
what it was. I forget, somebody.
Was it somebody that had left the economic development?
When?
When me and Todd were appointed 2 years ago?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, all right. All right, so we got that squared away. That's good. So we'll have a full functioning board going into the new term. What will happen, I was gonna propose that we cancel our July meeting because of vacations and schedules and stuff like that. First, is there any objection to canceling the July meeting?
No.
All right. So then, we'll cancel the July meeting, and then when we get back in August, because it's a new committee, we'll have to reorganize again. All right? And so, what I would suggest, especially to new members or people who've not, if you'd like to be chairman, I think it's good to have a diversity of ideas and thoughts going forward. If you wanted to be vice chairman, clerk, treasurer, express that interest. I think you'll find people on the board very open to things like that. But we will reorganize, and I'll put that on the agenda for August. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the town meeting warrant articles. The stars did not align for our Recreation Commission article and the Agricultural Commission article. And a lot of that, I think, was because we were caught up between the law firms. As you know, I don't know if you're aware, our town council, Gary Brackett, was let go earlier this year, and we had been, I think, using KP Law in the meantime,
a couple other
and a
firms.
couple others. So we really didn't have a consistent law firm, and I think the law firm that reviewed our warrant article did not realize it was a bylaw change and totally gutted it. And, I wasn't sure if we'd be able to salvage it on the town meeting floor, and I was just like, it's too complicated. But I did explain to people what we were going to be coming back with, and most people seemed very receptive to that. People want a strong recreation commission. They want a strong agricultural commission. So it was a good lesson for me as well. I think what I need to do is set up a meeting almost dedicated with the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board as a joint meeting, present them the Economic Development Plan and show them how that Recreation Commission and the Agricultural Commission weighs in. And once that meeting's set up, I'll post it as a meeting for ourselves as well. And so I would encourage anybody on the Economic Development Committee to be at that meeting to offer input and insight as well. All right? But it appeared to me that for the first time, it was the first time many people had even knew we were going to do it. And so further education never hurts. So that's what we'll do. All right? The Economic Development Plan update. I did print out copies of this one. And I emailed it last night. Does anybody need a copy now to just look at quickly?
If you don't mind.
Sure. Don,
Just looked at it quickly on the computer.
do you have a copy here? You want a copy?
Here, no.
All right. And Brian, you?
Yeah,
All right, there you go.
Is it two there? Is it two there?
Nope, all right.
Sorry.
I know, it's so thick, sorry about that.
Yeah, boy.
All right, the good news is, after 18 months, I think we're done. All right, now, we gotta tweak, we gotta make sure the language doesn't offend anybody. It's a pretty honest report, I think. Just going through it, most times people avoid the table of contents. They just kind of breeze over it. In this case, the table of contents will kind of give you the organization to it and allow you to quickly jump to places. So, how do I sum up? I mean, we did 18 months of public hearings, meeting different boards, meeting with business associations, talking with residents, talking with business owners, talking with a lot of the stakeholders. And the input was fantastic. There was so much of it, though. What my biggest fear is that I may have forgotten to add things in here. And things continuously pop up, so I keep kind of adding. The first thing was, our vision. And our goal is to make the town of Dudley a vibrant community-oriented town that is a great place to live, work, and play. We strive to create a community that will foster an array of economic opportunities for all of our residents while preserving the environmental, cultural, and historical elements which are cornerstones of our town. For the workforce of today and tomorrow, Dudley will provide the leadership and business environment needed to compete in our current knowledge-based economy. All right, so, and then I just kind of talk about it, right? We have the gross regional product of 306 million. I think that's a good benchmark to use every year as we continue to grow. If that number goes up, we're doing a good job. If that number goes down, we're doing a bad job. It is what it is. And the plan is kind of broken down into some very generalized goals and then some very specific action items. General goals to foster entrepreneurial networks that promote innovation and healthy businesses in Dudley, right? To capture the opportunities of the new knowledge-based economy by having a skilled workforce and strong connections between business and education. A lot of that came from some of these regional meetings we had with, the SEDS meeting, the Worcester Chamber, that whole workforce development. You see Gentex has a problem hiring people, right? Henke Sass has a problem hiring people, Webco. So if we have better alignment with our K-12 and our, Nichols and some of these businesses and what they're looking for, maybe we can have these people not only grow up here, but go to, work here as well and stay in town rather than go somewhere else down in the future. To support business development through an effective transportation system, targeted land development, redevelopment, and adequate modernized infrastructure such as water, sewer, and broadband technologies. Go ahead.
I've watched a couple of webinars recently about broadband too, and it's at the point where everything's going to be on the cloud at some point in the not too distant future. Getting broadband service and gigabit internet service is going to be very important in the future. So that's something to really think about.
Well, Ellen at one of our last meetings had mentioned about 5G technology. Now, 5G is really designed for what's called IoT, and you're going to hear a lot of that, Internet of Things. And what that is your thermostat hooked up, your meters, your cars, all that stuff. But, the biggest difference, it'll allow much faster speeds, but the big difference is the frequency that they're using is a little different. All right, today's frequencies typically kind of have a wave pattern like this. It's long. This new technology has got a much smaller wave pattern. And so there is some debate or concern, because it's the first time that it's being deployed in a large scale like that, is will the wave frequency have any kind of health effect? Because it's never before kind of been done. See, the longer the wave, the less detrimental it is to someone's health. The shorter the wave, the more detrimental it is. So But when we talk about broadband in town, so many people, right? Really, your only choice for broadband is Charter, right? Unless, I mean, there is no FiOS here. You have the DSL, which is ancient. You have some of the wireless providers, but, you know, they've got their caps, and how fast can you really go, you know, on wireless? Some interesting technologies coming out. SpaceX is launching, and going to be like 4,000 or 5,000 satellites that'll provide gigaspeed access wirelessly. Their time frame is like 5 years. There was even a model that I looked at for the town to be its own broadband provider and to make revenue on it, and to actually job out most of it. So, but, you know, that's something we can look at down the road, you know, for revenue opportunities, but we need something modern.
Keep in mind.
The next thing is to enable businesses to easily start or expand their enterprise in the town of Dudley. And then to bring the old dormant agricultural lands back to bountiful life and harvest. All right? We kind of talk about the strategies, kind of set, you know, what we're talking about in the next section. And then there's the generalized goals. We need to foster networks, right? Communications plan, reach out to businesses. It's pretty in-depth. You know, the Agricultural Commission, you know, how do you do the knowledge-based economy? The 5-year timeline is in here. Now, the 2021, I don't know, sometimes I can't think a week ahead. I'm trying to figure out which of these is a 5-year action item. maybe we start the next 5-year plan, right?
Yeah.
In 2021 or something. What some of the things I did want to kind of touch upon, though, is the specific goals. All right. If you look at government in general, there's what is I guess we have to determine as a town, what is our philosophy of government going to be here? All right. There are the overwhelming majority of cities and towns in the state and federal government are more and more regulations. And so the town could go down that path. And, you know, soon our regulations would be thousands of pages and far too complex for town employees to understand and do their jobs well or implement. And that's what creates bureaucracy and a bad experience for residents and businesses moving in. The other model that's starting to get some recognition is what's called it's like a community-based governance guided by guidelines. And so rather having a rule and regulation for absolutely everything, you basically establish a set of guidelines, decision-making guidelines that an official should follow. And you make sure that those guidelines maintain the highest ethical standards, right? Conflicts of interest. You know, the overwhelming thing, you know, who benefits from it? Does the town benefit? You know, things like that. But give employees the ability to make decisions on the fly to do what's right for residents without being in violation of the law. And there's some checks and balances, but it's a lot simpler to have 2-page guideline than thousands of pages more regulations. And I don't know if that's, you know, some people may disagree and say, no, you need everything in black and white, otherwise, you know.
You don't need everything, but there's a happy medium somewhere in between, because developers like to know exactly what you're going to be looking for.
Yep.
So you have to be succinct and clear, but not overly wordy, and not try to regulate everything.
Yep.
As you can.
So like the subdivision, rules and regs,
Yeah.
you want to be specific, you want to be clear.
You know, so much thickness of pavement, and
Yeah.
this much drainage capacity in this size pipe. And that
Exactly,
sort.
because vagueness in those regulations has caused numerous lawsuits throughout the years, right? But if the town administrator, if someone calls the, say, the highway department head, and he needs to go out and replace a mailbox because a plow hit it, by golly, he should be able to do that quickly. And maybe he can today. But do you want a rule and regulation governing how the highway department replaces mailboxes? So this is what I'm saying is, give the town employees the empowerment to make decisions, hold them accountable for those decisions, all right, but give them a set of guidelines. But that's something that's beyond us. It's something really for the Board of Selectmen, you know, to really think about, and the town administrator, and see, maybe they can find the balance between the two. So, but we wanted to put that in there, is what is going to be our philosophy of government going forward? The next goal, sure.
Before you move on, every case is different, so there's not always a set of very specific guidelines that you can follow either. You have to be flexible enough. You have to give enough detail to the developers to understand what you want, and if they understand what you want, and they want to develop in your town, they'll come.
Exactly. I mean, I believe, for the most part, people are smart and have common sense. I know there's exceptions to that. But, you know, when we hire people to do a job, let them do the job. Give them the tools they need to do the job, and give them the ability to make decisions. Hold them accountable for those decisions. But again, all we're doing is throwing it out there. It's up to them. They could totally ignore it if they want to, and we can continue to keep building our bylaws and regs, and you have to be a lawyer to be a volunteer here soon. The second goal, I think it was pretty clear that it's the primary impediment for continued growth in the town of Dudley is the inadequate water sewer system and infrastructure within the town, overwhelmingly. We came very close to losing that 55 and over perfect little subdivision right by Airport Road by Park and Shop because of tie-ins. They got to install pumps, it's going to be very expensive. And the water and sewer department, again, board of volunteers, they do a good job. A lot of them have got tremendous experience, and they all have the right intentions. But it's an enterprise system. And that means, right, the only ones that pay into it are the users. As the costs increase, so let's just say you have 1,000 users on the system. Those 1,000 users, for the most part, are going to be fixed. Unless there are upgrades and a major expansion of that system, those 1,000 users are going to continuously have their costs increase year after year, because we see inflation out there. We see the cost of goods and services. Webster's going to continue to raise their rates. And if you don't get more users on, those 1,000 users are going to be whacked really hard, and it's going to financially hurt them. When I met with the Water and Sewer Commission, they said most of their time and energy is spent on repairs, replacement, and damage control, because a lot of the parts of the system are 100+ years old. So I really think the town needs to come together, and we need to go for the full infrastructure, repair and replacement and expansion all in one bulk. I mean, the Trump administration has put hundreds of billions of dollars on the table here that the states and towns can take advantage of for shovel-ready projects. Even the state of Mass has got 0% 30-year programs right now. And there's grant money out there. And I think that rather than trying to do piecemeal, okay, we'll take care of this section here, we go for the full thing. If it's 30 million, we go for it. If it's 50 million, we apply for the grants. And we try to get it done. And at least if we can get it approved, yeah, it's okay if you execute it in phases.
You need a multi-year project, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's no way you're going to dig up the entire town simultaneously, right? But we have to do it. We have to do it, and the money's there. And I think it's, you know, Donna, I think one of the challenges is there may be a lot of people that aren't familiar with applying for grants, you know, in some of these other departments, or how to do it. And something like this would be very intense, and so it might require, we'd have to maybe talk to CMRPC if they could even help us with a grant application, or who do we talk with that can help us secure this money?
Possibly outside consultant, excuse me, and possibly outside consultant, depends on the scope.
Yeah, but
in addition to CMRPC, yes.
the water sewer department did say that they were working on a plan. I have not seen it. As soon as that becomes available, we will include it as an attachment to this economic development plan. But it's time. We got to do it, because we'll go around in circles all day long, and we can go out there, we can try to attract businesses, but at the end of the day, if there is not infrastructure, they're not coming here. It's that simple.
Probably should make sure that infrastructure is targeted to where we anticipate businesses growing or subdivisions being built. That way it's there, they can use it.
Yep. The primary areas that were referenced that people really want to see revitalized. West Main Street, we're in pretty good shape. But off of that, you start going off. You got pumping stations you're going to need and other issues. We have water issues with the DEP, not allowing a certain amount, capping what people can take out of the ground. They were talking about Lower Schofield running down to Perryville, right? You have all that land there. You have Henke Sass there. That's a wonderful area. Then you have Chase Ave, but something's got to be done. And we think it's a really good idea. It's a smart move that the Board of Selectmen are doing in looking at, do you actually create a Department of Public Works? And you merge the Highway Department and the Water and Sewer into it. Don't know the answer, right? But they're doing the due diligence on that, and it's a great move on their part. It's wise to do that. Get the facts. Is it worth it? But
So did that 55 and older community, is that a go?
yes, they did do it. They have to install individual pumps at each location, which is going to increase the cost of each unit. But
Who's building it?
I think it was Bob Ruda owns the parcel there. And, water and sewer, again, went above and beyond. Rather than just saying, no, you can't tie in, they had a really good discussion. They were trying to figure out, because one area is at total capacity. They don't do private pump stations anymore, so they really worked with the developer to get it done here. But it was close. We almost lost it. So,
The engineer was in touch with me about 3 weeks ago, I'd say,
all right.
so they were still working on it then.
Yeah, because a lot of people are actually excited, especially so many seniors that are getting older that are having tough time maintaining their homes.
Yeah.
I think those are going to sell out quick
Oh, yeah.
when he's done with those.
I think we need more.
I agree.
There's people all around that want
Yep,
that kind of style.
Inventory is so low right now, too, in the market. It's unbelievable.
sure is. All right, goal number 3, making local government more efficient. All right, because then the next part goes into, right, how do you raise revenue? Well, before you start raising revenue, let's make sure every dollar we spend now is spent wisely, and we should try to save money first, right? So so one of the suggestions is, what if you created an incentivized program for town employees to actually save money? So if someone can reduce their budget by 10% a year, I don't know, maybe there's additional paid time off they get or something. How do you make it so that rather than, if your budget's, say, $1,000 this year and you say, well, I'm going to go for a 2 or 3% increase next year because that's what everybody does. How do you change that mindset? And so, maybe we should look at, can you actually do an incentive program for individuals and employees that come up with better ways to do things that save the town money? Some sort of an incentive program. And really, that's going to be an action item, because we recommend a bottom-up review of every town department budget and spending by the Board of Selectmen, the treasurer, and the town administrator, with each department head. Go through the fiscal year 2018 budget. What was the money spent on? Is it wise to consolidate things? The planning board at one point had an engineer, and this other department had another engineer, and I don't know, we still have one engineer, or does each department still have their own engineers? Right? So little things like that can add up. But really, that's going to be an action item at least for consideration for the Board of Selectmen, the treasurer, the town administrator, and the time frame I put was March 2019. That would be really up to them and their schedules.
Even if it's not for saving money, but at the end of the day, again, we're trying to make a better life for the residents. What does that mean? So that department, if they have ideas that impact the resident that positively, and they want to use the money for that reason, how do you incentivize the right culture to stay focused on the resident? The government is there to serve the people. How do you get the government to make life easy, enjoyable, productive for the resident? period, right?
You know,
And if it's, I don't disagree with you. I mean, looking at it from one way, but how do you get more with the same money, right? How do you get how do you promote that culture, right?
yeah.
To make it easy for, at the end of the day, a good life for the resident.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that we did put in here, is we wanted to make sure, without affecting the performance of the department in any negative way.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, because you don't want to say, oh, yeah, we're going to save money, but man, our office hours are 1 hour a day.
Right now, the mentality, I'm sure, and it's the same way even with companies, it's use it or lose it,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay, well, you did less this year, well, you're not gonna get it next year. So how do you crack that code, right? And I think if you stay focused on the resident or what we're trying to accomplish in this town, better life, right? Economic and, social. That's the culture we're talking about here, and it should be the same for the government here,
Yeah.
right?
So then, after looking at the spending, right, the next goal was the online permit and licensing system. And that's that the town should adopt an online permit and licensing system to make it easier for residents and business to know if and when a permit is required. It will also allow town employees to be more efficient and handle increased applications. It basically makes our government open 24/7 online. And Webster is actually doing an experiment right now with a company called Viewpoint. And you can apply for any permit in town online. You can upload your documents. As soon as you hit the send button, a whole bunch of departments are notified, and then a series of action items are designed by each department that has to do their approvals. And what most towns find is that the approvals go through quicker. There's less phone calls and traffic to the actual counters. People know instantly what the status is of something, and if there's any questions, they can come in. And it also has the real-time GIS, which is something that a lot of the departments have been looking for. So when, say, Leesburg, the assessor is out there, to be able to pull up that information and do updates right then and there and pull, see what she's looking at. So definitely, I think the town should really look into that. It will make us more efficient. And there's a whole bunch of boards. It's anybody that does any kind of permit. Now, what I didn't put on that, but they could be included as well, is like even the fire department. I mean, think about a brush burning permit, right? You got to go to the fire department. Hopefully they're not on a call. And you pay your fee, and it's just so that they know that someone's going to be burning brush.
Yeah, there's
That could be done online easily.
No red tape, right.
How much do you pay these employees per hour to do small administrative
Right.
tasks like that? So we want the town to look at that online system. Review every department fee and licensing schedule to ensure that the monies collected actually pay for the work and time involved. Right? The ultimate goal of every department should be revenue neutral. Now, there's going to be some departments you simply can't do that, right? I mean, police, fire, you can't do that. The highway department, you can't. But there are departments that you can. So the question is, can the building department be revenue neutral? So the amount of time that the building inspector goes out there, do the fees pay for his hourly rate? And so every department should look at their fee schedule and make sure that the town is not incurring a loss, because it is more preferential for the users of services to pay for those services than to hit everybody with those fees, because money's tight for the town, all right? So just, again, a review, doesn't hurt.
Yep.
Review every town regulation from A to Z. We have a lot of regs. Some of them conflict with each other. It's time for a comprehensive regulation review. And the whole goal here is just ensure regulations and codes are consistent with or complementary to one another. And they're easy to understand and easy to implement. All right? Are they really necessary for the health and welfare of the town? Or is it some noisy neighbor or some loudmouth, made a complaint 20 years ago, and they made a regulation to take care of it, and it's still on the books. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the whole guideline thing would come in. I mean, so let's clean up the regs. Because someone moving into the town or business moving in should be able to read everything clear, concisely, and quickly. Now, how do we increase town revenue without increasing property taxes? We've already gone through and we've beat up to death the lobby for changes in Chapter 70 school funding formula. All right? And the only thing that I included in here is an example of this wealth factor that they added in 2007 that really penalizes small towns. And I just demonstrated that. So if you had $10 million in new income come in to a small town, right? And if the average income per person was $25,000, it's a 7.5% increase. But the large cities, where they can disperse that amongst all these hundreds of thousands of people, it's less than 0.5% increase. So this Chapter 70 was a disguise, really, for the cities to take most of the education funding and whack the small towns. They did it very, very shrewdly, if you really look, by adding that wealth factor.
How long's this been in effect?
2007, and that's where,
So it's a fairly new
Yeah.
provision.
and that's, and if you look at the problems that the school districts have had, especially regional school districts, they really started occurring right after this thing was done, because it was a shift of wealth. So, but, again, pushing water uphill with this one. Last time I told you that the House and Senate, the response I got was that this millionaire's tax is gonna take care of everything. That was shot down by the Supreme Court yesterday. So it's not even gonna be on the ballot. Yeah, so I guess they have to come up with another plan. So maybe they'll listen to some of the towns this time around.
How do you go at something like this, you think?
You really need,
I mean, do we have a shot? Or as a town, how we, if you can't fix it, what do you do? Right? That's what we gotta kind of think about.
So what you gotta hope is that there's enough pressure put on the state representatives and senators across the entire Commonwealth to change this, all right? Their latest budget, and it's amazing. They sent out this press release. You see so many senators send out this press release. Hey, we increase the state's commitment from 70% of their commitment, or 75% to 80% this year. Kudos to us. Their obligation was to fund 100%. So you don't see the press release saying, man, we screwed you guys by 20% this year again. You don't. And excuse me, as I get older, I just say what's on my mind.
Yeah.
So you need the state Senate and the state legislature to really make a move. Now, if they don't, you could always force their hand, if there's enough cities and towns that are feeling the pain from this, to do a ballot initiative and override the state legislature. So the ballot initiative, it's a complex, long, drawn-out process. It costs a lot of money, but that's the ultimate way.
Is this the cause or the culmination of the 2.5 that we just voted to approve in town?
Yes. When we met with the state auditor's office, I believe the shortfall for last year was about $1 million just in the transportation costs. It was pretty darn close to that. It was like 700,000 just on just the transportation portion that the state should have funded and they didn't. And then there were some additional things. Yeah, so it's absolutely, the state made this mess, the state needs to clean it up, but it's the pressure we gotta continuously put. And again, as long as this formula is designed for the cities, it's the small towns versus the cities. There's that agenda there, so.
Okay.
But the ballot initiative, again, this is pushing water uphill, but I think we need to keep it in there.
Well, people need to be educated, because
Exactly.
I don't think the town was educated on the issue, right?
Yep.
The kids were saying support the kids, making it into a different argument, right?
Yep.
And not too many people really knew the real issue, right? They were putting the onus on the residents, saying that, we need to pay our share, and not the town, not the state level paying their share. So I just want to make sure the argument and the discussion is in the right framework, right?
Yeah.
Because the kids need to know, because obviously the kids have a voice, right? We need to make sure that the kids are speaking the right music, because that'll also have additional pressure on the state level,
Yep.
right?
and I think you hit it right on the head. One of the top assets of the town, according to the survey, was our educational system and the high standards. And so regardless, right, you need to spend money to educate your kids. The battle isn't over educating the kids and the money being spent on the kids. What the real battle is the state needs to pay what they're supposed to pay under the law, and the town needs to pay their share. And the state shouldn't be shortchanging their obligations, because there is no recourse. I mean, so the state decides they're gonna only pay 80%. What recourse do we have, except to get rid of all these elected officials? It was never gonna happen, right? So I think people need to understand that the battle isn't over the student and that local child in the school system, it's between the state and the town here. And
And I just point this out because in my opinion, this is a stake in the heart in the quality of the town. And if this is not addressed, we'll be addressing it again next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, because you keep hitting the residents with Prop 2.5, it's like cancer.
yeah.
It needs to have a straight on, either it's a social media, communication. People need to know the truth. And you need to prepare the people of the town with the realities of where we're headed, right? And how do we as a town address this? This is a budget issue, right? And if it, and I'm just, listen, if I'm not saying something right, correct me, but I'm just, if you have it's like cancer. It just keeps eating away at the budget because the costs continually move over to the resident, and I don't know if it happens every year or it's a 3-year gestation period because this went into effect 07. Here we are in, 2018, and now we're getting hit with this Prop 2.5. I don't know.
Well, no, there have been numerous attempts in the past that failed. It was just becoming climactic. Every year, and the whole Chapter 70 funding formula really kind of pits the school department against these other town departments. Creates an environment of conflict.
Right.
And so, one of the things we had talked about was, separating out the tax rate, making them separate, having the school tax and then having your municipal tax. So you take $1,000, right? 500 goes to that. They can't touch each other. If you do an override for the school, right, doesn't affect the town rate. Town doesn't affect the school. Then you could come up with an additional 0.25% on the sales tax, or do something on a statewide level. And actually fund the education through that. I mean, there was one point lottery was supposed to all go to education, and that doesn't happen anymore, right?
Yeah.
So there are other ways to do it without shouldering the burden on property tax, the property owners. And then there are discrepancies even in that, because you take a 3-family in Dudley, I think they pay somewhere around $2,000 a year in taxes, property taxes. And yet a single-family home might be paying $3,000 to $4,000. But yet that 3-family has 3 times the use of town services than that single family. So can you do a factor? But it's a long-term thing. It's something we always have to stay on top of and just try to work with the legislature to get a real lasting change and something innovative.
Yeah.
We had proposed to the state auditor to work with the feds. The U.S. government has never, ever charged a royalty fee or a patent fee for any of its inventions. So everything, all the money that's been spent, the hundreds of billions, probably trillions over the years on the NASA technology, the microprocessor, right? That was all done with U.S. government taxpayer money. And the U.S. government has never collected a dime for that. So why not going forward? Can't the government institute a royalty fee and have that dedicated to education funding across America? Right? Simple things, but I don't know. Again, pushing water uphill. So, the one thing that we talked about was maybe, and I don't know what the results would be, is an amnesty program for homeowners for building permits. It's amazing how many people aren't aware of the things that they need a building permit for. Window replacement, roofs, gas wood burning stoves, pools, etc. Fences, right? And so, in talking with the assessors, it counts, so when someone does an improvement, it counts as new revenue, the same as if a new home was built in town. And so it's kind of taken out of those Prop 2.5 limitations on the town. And so, you know, how many homeowners are wondering if work was done correctly, if something's up to code, right? Or they're afraid that they're gonna get penalized or get, you know, some problems for some work that was done that maybe they didn't know they needed a permit for. So, I don't know, what if the town actually implemented an amnesty program and maybe after we do the online permitting system, and let people say, hey, look, I had windows replaced, can you come and make sure they were done correctly? And have the building inspector go out there and say, yeah, you know, they were. And then they pay the fee at that point. Again, as long as but some additional way, because what that'll do is that'll increase the improvement section of the tax base. And let people make sure that the stuff that was done in their house was done to code and safe. So just a thought. The next thing was the establishment of a charitable giving and estate foundation for the town. I didn't really know what to call this. There are many people who would like to remember, the town in their wills, different departments. I mean, people that enjoy the library, right? The rail trails, the different things that the town has to offer, the police department, fire department. We need to have a nice little package designed for those people so that they can add the town into their wills and their estate planning. There's a lot of nonprofits make a lot of money on what's called charitable gift annuities. Is that something that's an option where people can get a lifetime income and then if they die, right, it goes over to the town? Things that are out of the ordinary but worth exploring. And I think the treasurer's office would be the one to explore those and see, are we even allowed to do stuff like that? I mean, the wills, there's nothing preventing anybody from giving the town a will, but
Yeah, right.
how do you make sure it's spent the way you want it spent? So I think there just needs to be some sort of package and some sort of maybe even workshops to inform people, because I think people will do that. I know I will.
There's a process under state law. It's chapter 44, section 53E and a half, or something like that.
Is there?
For giving a gift to the town for a specific purpose, the town held it for that purpose, and is allowed to spend it according to the terms of the gift.
All right. State has a law for everything, huh?
Yeah.
This one here could be controversial, and this one here, I think the only way this one's gonna pass would be through a ballot initiative. And I think every city and town in Massachusetts would support this one. When the state legislature passed their new marijuana tax, they have significantly undertaxed marijuana in comparison to traditional tobacco products such as cigarettes and smokeless tobacco. All right? So if you have a $5 retail value on tobacco or marijuana, the tobacco has a current excise tax of $3.51, then you have the state sales tax. You're paying $9.04 for $5 worth of tobacco. Under the marijuana taxation law, that same amount, you're only paying $6.04. There's a huge discrepancy. They have designed this program to incentivize smoking pot over cigarettes. It's a 33% savings to do so. So I think the town has an opportunity to take advantage of this. And by the way, and the state has generously allowed the town 15 cents on that $5 purchase for their revenue. So it's ridiculous.
So how does that 15 cents get to the town if you're not dispensing in the town?
Well, there's going to, this is what was just approved at town meeting. The town meeting approved charging the 3% marijuana fee. How the marijuana commission still hasn't figured out how to reimburse, and that's all
Okay,
being done.
all right,
Yeah,
yeah,
this is like brand new.
Yeah.
So I think there's an opportunity for us to at least sell to the public that if you're gonna sell marijuana, it shouldn't be cheaper than selling cigarettes. Right? So, right? You gotta reduce the price of cigarettes, which is not gonna happen. So you can't make marijuana cheaper than tobacco. You can't do that. It's maddening. And so I think if the town seizes that initiative, the legislature will try to fight it off because of special interests, right? But I think we could get enough cities and towns to support this, and I think the town should go for that excise tax, that difference. And they would be able to pick up another $2.82 on every purchase and pick up what the state is not picking up.
I'm trying to understand how in the world did this disparity get approved?
Because government is here to help us.
No, but the government should have been right there with their hands out trying to scoop up this, because the time of implementing parity in the cost
Right?
would have been the time when the dispensaries were trying to get in, right, and all the special interests. I don't know how this, what was the argument to allow this to go through is scratching my head.
You and me both. They did a 10.75%
Producers in the
state excise tax.
I'm sorry?
Producers, I guess, the sellers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Even alcohol, right? They have excise taxes, right? You exceed 40% proof, man, all of a sudden you're whacking like $4, $5, flat tax on that sucker.
Yeah, this is,
So I think it's an opportunity for the towns to try to take that. Now, what will probably happen is the state legislature will say, oh yeah, wow. And then they'll try to grab it that way. That way, the only way to protect the towns is actually through a ballot initiative, because that would supersede the power of the legislature to take that money. Again, state versus town, that conflict. So, but 15 cents, I mean, 3% tax for the local towns with the increased public safety, the EMTs, you're gonna have these dog overdoses on candies, and the Board of Health. What were they thinking? That's an insult to the town. You know, what they do. But anyway. All right, the next thing we should look at, Airbnb fees and promotion. Airbnb, I put kind of a definition to explain to people, because a lot of people may not know what it is, but it's an online marketplace and hospitality service for people to lease and rent short-term lodging, their homes and stuff, right? We talked about Nichols College, parents coming in, having no place to stay. Henke Sass, right, their German company, where do their people stay, right? You got Webco, you got vendors, so why not encourage Airbnb in Dudley? You got the rolling farmland, right? I went online, there's only 2 houses in Dudley that actually participate with Airbnb today, in Dudley. And it's nice, they get $75 to $90 a night. You know, and one of them had like almost 200 positive reviews.
I know Gentex bought a house.
Probably
Right.
just for that
No,
purpose, right?
Right when you turn in their driveway, that white house on the corner.
Yeah.
They bought that like 10 years ago.
So the good thing is that, again, you know, the state beat us to the majority of the tax in March. We had discussed this last year. But they did, my understanding is that the towns can impose their own fees as long as they adopt a policy that requires short-term rentals to pass a safety inspection paid for by the host. And that makes sense, right? You want to make sure that if someone's renting an apartment, that it's up to code, right? You got the smoke alarm, right? It's not going to burn down on somebody. So I think we really do need to do this, but again, this would be the Board of Selectmen that would have to be the ones that actually implement this. And it could be some additional revenue, just wasn't there previously. And then we have the agriculture initiative. The APR land, that's the goal number 5, put that as a whole separate goal. Establishment of a new agricultural commission. Dudley did pass the right to farm bylaw already, which is fantastic. The agricultural commissions, there's like 91 cities and towns that already have them set up. So there's the warrant article, I included that in there. Then we have an outreach to landowners who are currently paying reduced taxes on Chapter 61A and APR lands, determine, make sure they're in compliance. Find out who's not farming, why they're not farming it, and if there's a way to match those pieces of land up with people that are willing to farm it. And we could on the website literally do a matchmaking service, but I would really like the Agricultural Commission to kind of take ownership of these, and then we would work with them to try to make happen the things that they need to make happen. Promote farm to table, Dudley Fresh. You know, we have a lot of farms here, people make cheese, you have eggs. You know, for us to be able to approach businesses like Park and Shop and some of the local restaurants and say, hey, can you offer a Dudley Fresh option? You know, you go to, you know, Firebrands, whatever, say, hey, this steak is from Dudley, this one's not. So it may cost a couple bucks, but at least you know where it's from. You know, give people at least the option. And then I put goal number 4, the Napa Valley of New England. I still believe Dudley could be the Napa Valley of New England. Now, it's not gonna happen overnight, and it might take 20, 30 years. But what is a fact is that the wineries that are on the North Fork of Long Island are out of land. They're looking to expand. You have California. A lot of those vineyards were decimated by the fires last year. So they are looking for land, and my understanding is that Dudley is the perfect soil type and environment for grape growing. So let's see if we can get a couple farmers who experiment. We'll ask the state for some financial assistance, for crop transition assistance, and see if we can get something to grow here.
Well, we want to work with UMass on this too.
Yeah, right?
Now, what about water supply? Farms.
There probably have to be private wells for the time being. That's the good thing, is there's enough water. I mean, Dudley's on top of, many of these farms have tremendous aquifers.
Yeah, grapes really don't need a lot of water, fortunately. They like good draining soil.
Yeah.
A lot of sand in Dudley, that's what makes it good.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, all along Pierpont where I live, it's all gravel. It's all perfect. You need good drainage and a lot of sun. That's what winery is likes. So
Yeah, so.
you look at Hilka, well, that's actually in Charlton. That whole basin on that side, Pierpont, on that north side, up by you, that's all gravel.
Ledge.
And ledge too. Yeah, unfortunately, you sometimes get the two together.
And then the final, the goal, the establishment of the new Recreation Commission. We've discussed this numerous times already. We put all the beaches, the rail trails, boating, fishing, hike. You know, at one point the town had talked about maybe having a resident sticker that someone, I don't know, pays $20 a year for. And maybe we could partner with the Dudley Conservation Land Trust, because they have dozens and dozens of trails all throughout beautiful historic areas, and maybe give them a portion of it to allow our residents. I mean, right now they allow it open to any residents as well, but I figured let the Recreation Commission get a bunch of very smart people and let them figure out how to make this thing happen, right? And then the old mill complexes. The way I label this, tough choices ahead. I kind of talk about a little bit about the 94 unit low income proposal that had been brought forth. You know, $40 million renovation budget. You know, the survey, people really wanted that mixed use, commercial, residential, mixed use. Prefer private sale condos. They preferred 55 and older. Developer had no interest in that, no interest in that. It could come to a point, and and I just wanted to kind of throw it out there that if nothing is done with this, it's going to rot from the inside out, and it could come to a point where it just has to be knocked down. And so if you want to prevent that, the town really needs to work closely with these owners and come up with a solution. Because the only other solution, inevitably, if there is no solution, is to knock it down and do something else. And it'd be a shame, because it's sort of iconic of Dudley, but
If the town doesn't engage the owner, and the owner elects to walk away, the town will end up owning it anyways.
that's right, because they're already in the rears of the tax. Then what do we do with it?
Then what do we do? Then it's all on us
Yeah.
to fix.
See, and that's where I put there, could the town turn a profit owning the building and using it for a 55-plus community? I mean, see, the town can get 0% loans under some of these programs that are out there right now for 30 years. So, you know, can it make economic sense? Worst case scenario, if it comes back to the town, and if the town has to spend $40 million,
Yeah.
well, you do a $40 million mortgage at 0%, and if you divide that by 94 units, can you make a profit? I don't know. But that's just trying to throw ideas out
Yeah,
there.
right.
But ideally, get the current owner
Right.
to do mixed use, commercial, residential, keep it private ownership, make it, restore it to its glory. That should be the goal. But- And then, of course, revitalize West Main Street and Schofield Ave. A lot of this is dependent on the Central Mass Regional Planning Phase 2, because it affects the zoning regulations and other things. And then we'll incorporate the CMRPC at that point into this. So what I would ask you guys to do is read it over. I'm sure there's a million typos. If I forgot anything, please shoot me an email. I did send it to Greg Balcones and Don as well, the town administrator, just to start reviewing. What the goal would be is probably somewhere, I think the selectmen may have a meeting somewhere around July 16th, is to present it formally to the selectmen. And then we'd be done with it. And we just do the phase 2, phase 3, and then the action items on our part. Any questions, comments, concerns?
So the selectmen would look at it, they would have to just basically bless it, that it seems inclusive, right? And then from there, we can work off it. But then it's still, we would still have to, hit each individual department and get approvals and all that other stuff. I mean, the action items would still be not final. We would then have to go reback, get approval from the action item, right?
Well,
Just trying to get a sense. I mean, this is a long-term plan, but.
so let's take the core of the Economic Development Committee. We technically serve at the pleasure of the selectmen, all right? We're an advisory board to the selectmen. The selectmen are, so to speak, the elected governing board of the town, lead board, lead dog. And they are the leadership.
Executive
So,
branch.
you know what?
Executive branch.
Yeah, the executive branch, yeah, exactly. And so this would be our recommendation to them. It is up to them to do what they want with it. They could literally shelve it.
Right.
They could vote and say, yeah, you know what, this is good, let's approve it as is. They could say, you know what, we like this, we'll do this, we won't do that. They can pick and choose.
They've asked for this, though.
Yes, it's
Right.
part of our mission. It's actually in the bylaw
All right,
that we're supposed to produce a 5-year, and that's why we did this.
all right.
And so this will be our recommendation to them, and then it's up to them. Now, if they decide to implement it, or certain parts, we'll certainly continue to work with them to help educate and help them implement it. And maybe sitting down with various boards and
Okay.
things like that.
All right, so this is a deliverable.
Yeah.
We've done it, we just hold tight.
Exactly, our deliverables
Wait on
done.
it. All right.
I think our next big project would probably be the how-to portion that's in the plan.
Right,
So if you're a business and you want to move into town, here's a package. So like, how do you apply for your license? Have it kind of all nice and clean, have it online as well. I think that'll probably be our next build.
so I would, another question.
Sure.
So from this, are we gonna make directed prioritization direction to the selectmen to say, hey, we as a group feel that this has the most impact on the town, on economic development in the town, right? Because this is like drinking from a fire hose, but I think do we have an opportunity to focus them on, this is where we would recommend us hitting our resources first?
Yeah, that would be, so when we present it to the board, which is going to be around July 16th, that's exactly when we want to make the case.
Okay,
And,
so July 16th?
yeah, we still have to get on the agenda. Being middle summer, they may end up canceling the meeting, but they can't do July 2nd. They meet like every 2 weeks.
So I asked, so you said yes on that, so is it advisable thus to have a meeting before we make that recommendation to the Board of Selectmen? So I know everybody wants to
That's-
take the month of July off, but I'm like, if they have the meeting in July, that there won't be the recommendations there if we don't have a meeting. So that's all.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not opposed. It's up to.
Oh, I'd be more than happy to meet.
Nobody agrees, then we say, then do we hold this off until, can you hold this off, presenting it to the board?
Oh, yeah.
That's all, I don't know the inner workings, I'm just throwing this stuff against the wall, and,
Yeah, I mean, what I want to do is I want to make sure that for the fall town meeting, that our warrant articles are there and we'll discuss, and everybody's on the same page for the Agricultural and Recreation Commission. There is no harm. I mean, if they don't meet July 16th, they'll meet 2 weeks afterwards. Be what, July 29th, something like that, or July 30th? I mean, we could always go further down, and if you want, we can keep the July meeting on. I mean, I don't have any objection.
All I say is, does the team agree that we should have a recommendation prioritization off of this form to give, to direct the Board of Selectmen? And if the team says yes, then we all agree, do we all agree that we hold presenting this to the board until we have that recommendation? If we want to take the month of July off because it's summer, I agree, let's do it, but then let's postpone the presentation of this to the board.
And you're asking, like, not just to present the plan, but out of this plan, that we meet and say, okay, within this plan, there are specific items that we feel take priority. Strongly about,
Right,
and we
right.
want you to.
Unanimously, right,
Right.
as a team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think that, John, the amount of time that you've put
Yeah,
into
this
this
is
and the
like-
driving force of this is just, this is kind of just been sitting here listening, just getting educated, really, because, I've never really been involved in the town government or anything like that. It seems like, this is a great.
This is a
Guide.
tipping point. This is a
Yeah,
tipping
and
point.
and how do we get it done, right? So it's just like, okay, we gotta focus on, like, certain things and prioritize, like you said, and say, okay, what's gonna make the biggest impact? And if we need to get in front of, and we need to make sure that, all the selectmen are here, and that, because this is, with the amount of time that you've put into this, and if we're gonna, really tone in on a couple of key things, we wanna get their buy-in, and then, hold them accountable to act on it, and just be like, listen, if the selectmen are saying that, yeah, we agree and we vote, all right, okay, what's the next steps? And we gotta carry this through, because there's just too many great ideas here to just have it be shelved. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I agree, and I have no problem meeting in July.
We could present it to them July 16th or the 29th, and then go back in September to discuss it. They'll have a chance to read it over, and because we'll want a list too of what are the priorities, what do we want to get done this year, what do we want to start on?
And actually, that's a great question, because, they will have this, each member of the Board of Selectmen will have this prior to that meeting. So it's not like they can, will they have time to go through this, or will it be like, okay, we're presenting this, we're handing it out, and then they would, of course, say, well, listen, we need time to review this.
Yeah, no, that's very wise. What I try to do is, where you see goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, what my recommendation would be is that if we do prioritize, let's make sure goal number 1 is our number 1 goal. Okay, goal number 2 is it. So if it requires me to take goal number 6 and make it goal number 1, we can do that. That's not an issue. All right? But I also, Todd, you're right. They're gonna need, if we're gonna have a really good conversation,
Right.
they're gonna need time to really kind of go through it as well. So why don't we keep the July meeting on for now? All right? Let's review it. I won't request to get on the selectmen's agenda. I'll give them the draft of this too, and then we'll give them the final. So as we get closer, so what I would ask is that over the next 2 weeks, just go through it. Again, all my typos and grammar, and I've never been good at that. So any of that, if something needs to be better clarified, just shoot me over the emails, and I'll continue to tweak it. And then once we tweak it, I'll send it over to the actual Board of Selectmen so that they have a couple of weeks to really sit down, and the planning board as well. And we'll get together in July. We'll make sure, because you will have all had time to digest it as well.
Yep.
We'll make sure that the goals are synonymous with 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll know how we're gonna go in and meet with the Board of Selectmen at that point. Fair enough?
Fair
All
enough.
right, so then July meeting's still on.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, our meeting.
Yes, our meeting.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm not gonna ask for the Selectmen meeting on July 16th yet. I'm not gonna do that until
okay,
after our meeting.
Okay, good.
All right.
Could I please have a,
Yep, absolutely. The next thing, town planner update.
Speaking of things that are due in July, I think that the SEDS,
Yeah.
I think you got a copy of it. I'm not sure if you distributed it to the committee, but I think that's due July 23rd, or if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not on her list. She said she sent something last time, too. No.
Get it? All right, I'll be sure
When did
you
she
do.
send this out?
I'm sure you get it today. I don't know if
It was like Karen Pelletier over there, right?
Yeah.
I don't get anything
See
from
what,
her.
I'll see
She's
the
not in my
latest-
junk
I'll see what the
then.
latest is, and I'll be sure you
Okay.
get it.
I'll reach out to her.
Okay.
Said is that the regional Worcester Chamber is this economic development region that we're trying to do as a bunch of, was it 21 or 22 communities? So that we can apply for some big projects together for the federal government.
Okay. Priority development areas. I went to a workshop this past Thursday morning. And it was really for the 495 Metro West communities, but we kind of a board of that, and we can get a lot of ideas from what they've done in this area. Also, about the priority development areas, we've been talking for some time about studies that were done in 2013 to 2015, and site walk of the one of the priority development areas that we recommended at that time. From the planning board's perspective, it looks like it's going to be on a Saturday. What's everybody's schedule like?
What's Saturday?
I don't know yet. I had to wait for the new board membership. I didn't know if I was getting a new.
It'll have to be one of those, you set the time and,
Show up.
you know,
Show
we'll
up or
have, we'll get a couple people.
Okay.
Yeah.
July, August.
September, October.
We could set it, it could be 97 degrees that day too, so yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Whatever, I'll talk to the board again about setting something up, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Okay.
Tentatively a Saturday, though.
Anything else?
That's about it.
All right.
Well, I did speak with Ron, and they're still waiting to see if they're getting that second batch of funding. We talked about it
Okay.
last meeting. I think they have to be notified by the end of this month, so we don't know by next week, then. He seemed to think that they would be getting back to him before the end of the month, though. That second batch of funding is, if we get that, that's good, if we can work a little bit more regionally with Webster as well.
Is there, with that 55 and older community off of Airport Road, do you see any hiccups at this point? The engineer reached out to you the other day?
Yeah, he reached out to me a few weeks ago. We were talking about how to do the development. I said that there's a good example. You know, the one that Dave Vitkus did off old Southbridge Road, I think it is.
Yeah. See, the private roads, I'm not a big fan. I used to be a big fan of private roads, right? When I was on the planning board, right, because it was, okay, what we were told was that it's very expensive to maintain roads, that these subdivisions should be private roads. Let the contractors and developers take care of them. And the highway department said, no, we prefer to be private roads as well. And I listened, but as time went on and I saw the problems that private roads cause, I've become 100% opposed to private roads. I don't think there should ever be another private road again in Dudley. And because what happens is, right, they're supposed to set up an HOA. They don't.
But they did. That group did. They did
Yeah,
a
well,
good
that
job
group
at it.
did set up, but the whole, they're taxpayers, right? They're paying the same taxes as many homes. They should be entitled to the same services. The developer, if they put the road in correctly from the start into town standards, why would the developer want to keep it private? They only want to keep it private because there's, again, at the end of the day, they're hiding something. That's what my experience. I've never seen a private road where the reason why is they can't turn it over to the town because it's lacking some infrastructure or there's a problem. And so then these HOAs would get it, and 20 years from now, they're gonna find these problems that were buried 15 feet under the ground. And so that's why, you know, with private roads, I'm just not a fan.
I know.
Then there's the plowing, right? When the developer dies and the escrows are gone and there's no HOA, what happens? You got Partridge Hill.
Take a look at Noble Street up in northern Dudley there. The road has so many potholes in it, they're just filling it in with crushed stone.
Yeah. And so here you have, right, a 55 and older community gonna be between, right, Dudley Hill, Airport Road, small road. It would make sense to even plow, to be able to cut through, plow, and hit Dudley Hill and make a nice U-turn. I mean, why would we want that as a private road?
It's more of a condominium situation.
Yeah, but still, why would it be, I don't know. I'm not a fan of private roads. But anyway, the old business focus on video. I saw Joanne on the selectmen's agenda for that. I don't know if that ever happened, so we'll table that to the next meeting. New business, Webster Credit Union doing a major revamp there in Park and Shop Plaza. That trailer is the bank for the time being.
I was wondering what that trailer
Yeah,
was from.
so if people are wondering,
Not very secure.
that is their temporary bank. There's no ATM access at this time over there.
Yeah.
It's not very secure, is it?
Yeah, but, you know, kudos to them for investing money in Dudley and modernizing that complex. I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful addition to the plaza. And then Dunkin Donuts seems to be almost ready to open. I mean, site plan review, do you guys,
Yeah, the building inspector and I are taking a look at it today.
all right? When's the expected opening on that one? Don't know? You know what I see is an issue, though? People cutting down Ardlock, when they see the dipping line, right, they're gonna take that left down Village, take the left onto Ardlock, and they're gonna try to get to the drive-through and find that they can't. And they're gonna try to do these U-turns in that parking lot. Watch. But I don't think technically that they could have done anything, because is that still a private road?
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't have an entrance.
It's a private road. There you go. You just supported my argument.
Don't let the factory.
But I think it looks very nice. I mean, I like the stone as you're coming in. It's definitely not an eyesore.
Yeah.
We'll see where the sign's
Anything
lit up
would've
at
been
night.
better.
Yeah, right? Anything was better than that, yeah. So, all right. Does anybody have any other business? Sure.
One thing I want to bring up real quick. So, in addition to the economic development plan, I don't know what the laws are regarding the states around this, right? But I have an ATV, and I know in New Hampshire they do this thing where they just charge you a flat fee. It's like a registration fee every year, $50 or whatever it is, and it allow you to ride on any kind of private trails that you're allowed to, or non-public roads like side roads or something like that. Is that something that we could consider at a town level, or does that have to be more of a state level for that?
Well, it would probably be state, but I know almost all of our trails in Dudley have no motorized vehicles.
Yeah.
So the rail trail, Dudley Conservation Land Trust, a lot of those areas are technically wildlife sanctuaries as well. But when the new Recreation Commission is created, it would, from the town level, it would probably fall under their authority. And who knows, if there's enough demand, if people are willing, maybe they could find an area, where people could have some fun and do that stuff. I don't know, like Douglas State Forest,
Can't ride in there.
you can't ride in there.
Well, the only one is Oxford, right? Locally?
I think so. Yeah.
Oxford, you gotta have a permit, but you can ride it.
There's some private places up where I live that you can ride in, private land and everything like that, but there's some trails in there. But if that ever gets sold, it's gone,
Yeah, right.
I'm just trying to think ahead of, a lot of people live out here because they can have their all-terrain vehicles and
Right.
go on the trails and stuff like that. Most people ride responsibly, no one's doing
Yep.
anything too crazy. But I figured it might be an additional option for us to explore, maybe putting some kind of, hey, $50 permit fee if you ride your ATV around.
But, and maybe some of these farmers and some of these guys that own some of these large gravel pits
Yeah.
Right.
would be allowing some private use, you know?
It is hard. There's not a lot of land available
Yeah,
for people to do that. Oxford is the only thing that comes to mind anybody can go to, right?
Yeah.
Outside of private land.
yeah.
Or you gotta go all the way out to Berkshire County or, farther out that way.
Yeah.
You see, like with a lot of the, like the rail trail and the conservation lands, the Dudley Conservation Land Trust stuff, a lot of little kids, and you have the dogs
Yeah.
and stuff too.
Yeah, right.
And so that's what, the concern is.
Either way.
A lot of that.
Yeah.
But on the rail trail, what we found is that, there's some illegal use with ATVs. It destroys the bedding when they do their turns. And so some of the areas of the rail trail actually have to be rebuilt, especially like over the bridge area, from the ATVs that use it.
Yeah.
There's no money to
Yeah,
rebuild
it's
it.
gonna be erosion.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, tearing it up.
Yeah.
So,
But there's a lot of large tracts of land, I think in the addendum that Central Mass Regional Planning, there's a list of land and the acreage and the owners that are APR lands. Maybe reach out to one of them. Look on a map, see where they're at.
I don't know if there's a restriction on that, but.
On private
Yeah,
land?
Yeah, agricultural land, and
I think if it's the only thing they could use ATVs farms have ATVs all the time, right? It's the commercial use of it.
Yeah.
They can't set up a business calling it an ATV track, but,
Yeah.
I would say try to forge a relationship with one of the landowners.
Very cool.
But I was totally unaware about the flat registration fee. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Chair, entertain a motion to adjourn. Well, first, any other business? All right. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Nope, you made the motion. Okay, Russ has made the
Okay.
motion.
Make the motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Okay, Todd, second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll see you in July.
All right.